All right, so it is Monday. We are live again. Technical issues, probably 4 or 5 fires I've had to put out this morning as well. And we're finally here, so 2 minutes over, but whatever. So welcome to Richard Moore here. This is the Startup Business Q&A. Episode 41 is this week. So it means it is 1 p.m. GMT and 8 a.m. where you are if you're in the East Coast. And thank you to everyone else who joins in later on. It's always fun to do this. It's, gosh... I was thinking of saying earlier, you know, so many people always say, oh, these Q&As are great. They're really consistent. They're on time. They've got their questions and everything is all so organized. That's really, really good, Richard. And it always seems like everything's so well planned out. And, you know, it's funny with any business, you know, what you put out there has to look like, you know, you have to appear unflappable. This is really good, advice for anyone building a business in terms of understanding perceptions, so how your audience perceives you. You need to try your best to appear unflappable. Demonstrating vulnerability sometimes and your softer side is always valuable too, but showing you're out of control, never want to do that, because then people lose trust and things like that. It's just funny though, because literally the last half an hour, so much stuff has gone on and I've had to literally be running around putting out these fires so that I can be literally sitting here right now. So I'm almost out of breath from it on. Daniel, thanks so much for joining in, and everyone else who's joining in as well today. So it is the Startup Business Q&A episode 41. I'm doing a giveaway today. So here's how it's going to work. Those of you who ask questions are eligible to win. Okay, I'm going to pick 5 people today. I need some water. I don't have any. I'm going to pick 5 people today who are going to get free lifetime access to the 8-Step Startup course. Free, forever access to all 73 lessons of my 8-Step Startup course, which covers the 8 main themes of building a startup, available on 8stepstartup.com. So those people who will win, those 5 will be people who have asked questions today. I have questions you've submitted in front of me here. Also, if you ask questions in the comments, then of course it makes you eligible as well. So if you have a question about your startup business that you want to ask, fire away and we'll add you to the mix as well. Okay, so thanks so much for joining in, all of you that do. And let's get started. So the first question, I have no water, but that doesn't matter. First question is for Adam Mosley. And he asks, Richard, how can you ensure continual improvement on your product or company? Well, needless to say, there's no thing you can do that ensures you constantly improve, because otherwise we would all be doing that thing and then we'd be laughing because our products and companies would always be getting better. But there is an important way you need to view each day, which I've personally found is the key to making sure that your company and product is always doing better, okay? And that's an awareness of the type of work you do each day. So what I mean by this is that there are 2 types of work, loosely speaking, that you do on your business. There is maintenance and routine. I'll come to explain that in a sec. And then there is the business development and progress. Okay. Now, maintenance and routine is that daily admin you need to do. It might be running, you know, detail into your spreadsheets. It might be checking your Facebook ads. It might be responding to emails, doing your accounts, whatever it is. Whatever admin, maintenance and routine you have, those things that are routine. This Q&A, for instance, while I love it, it's really stimulating, is part of the maintenance routine of the business. The idea is that if you only did the maintenance and routine side of your business, then your business would stay still, in the sense that it wouldn't grow or decline. It would, you know, everyone's been looked after, all the bills are being paid, all your existing customers are happy, everything is as it was the day before. And if you complete all of those tasks, you could do nothing else that day and the business would not go backwards, okay? Now on the other side is the business development and the progress work, and this is where innovation takes place. So the crucial part is that if you innovate, if you create new things, if you build on maybe existing product lines or add new ones especially, and develop and grow the business, what that's going to do is going to take you to new places, and that is how you actually grow. So what's essentially, if you want to answer this question from Adam Mosley here, if you want to continually improve and grow your product and company, what you need to make sure is that every day you do administration, admin, routine stuff, and you do progress, business development stuff as well. I've tested and experimented with this for years, and without question what I've found is that if I've divided my day into quarters, loosely speaking, so not exact quarters, but 4 parts, what I do is in the first part of the day, the first quarter of the day, I do all my maintenance, admin and routine stuff. Okay, so that might be social media, it might be reports, it might be paying bills, it might be responding to emails, whatever it is. All that stuff is done then. The 3 remaining quarters, not a bit, but 3 remaining quarters is for innovation, growth and business development. So acquiring new customers, doing interesting new things. And you might think that's really extreme. Surely it should be the other way around. No, I cram the maintenance and routine part of things into a very small part of the day so that I have much more time for the improvement and growth through innovation. Now, here's the reason why. Some of you may have experienced this before. When you start to get a little bit bored with what you're doing in your business, when you start to lose a bit of interest, when you start, and it does happen, to resent the work you're doing, as in, oh, I've got to do this again, and it starts becoming drudgery, what that indicates is you're focusing too much or spending too much time on admin, maintenance and routine stuff and not enough on innovation, growth and creation stuff. So just as an aside, no matter how successful your product or service is, it could be world class, you need to still innovate and grow and create new products and service anyway. It's important because your current product, no matter how great it is, will eventually become stale. And people always are looking for the next thing anyway. It's in that innovation and that creation and that stimulating business development growth side of your work that you find the thrilling, engaging part of your day. That is where you thrive. That is where you come away thinking, I've so enjoyed today, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. That is where you end up feeling really great about your business, and that is where really the thrill and the fun lies. Get the maintenance out of the way first and then focus most of the day on that. It will inherently mean that you improve and grow and can continually help your business scale and innovate, but also keep you stimulated. I know this firsthand because I went through this period and it was totally correlated with what I was doing. So in short, it was a while back, it was a couple of years ago. I remember I went through a phase of growth and really enjoying building the business and adding content and things like that. Then there was a period, it was several weeks actually, where I seemed to be focused a lot more on maintenance now. You know, I had so many customers coming in, I was trying to look after them, and we were building people's businesses, which was quite stimulating, sure, but my business and work started to get a bit stale, and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And what you're doing is actually doing too much maintenance and admin. So you need to draw a line. You need to say to yourself, if it doesn't get done in that quarter, it doesn't get done. It has to carry over to the next day, and switch into innovation and creation. So for instance, this week I'm doing some content on a new course. And that's going to be exciting because that's stimulating growth stuff that's going to help build the business more. It's new product, it's innovative, and it means that I'll be engaging myself on something fresh and new. And that is where you thrive. That is where you're going to feel good about your business. It's such an important question you've asked here, Adam. Most people don't get this. What most people do is they build their product, they try and sell it to people, and then they look after the customers as they come in. They kind of maintain that blob for a bit. And what happens is over time, they hit this thing called the plateau, which is this long period drawn out of serving customers, doing maintenance, serving customers, doing maintenance, keeping all the plates spinning, and then they do one of two things. They hit this thing called the wall, where they really start getting a bit bored with the company because you're doing too much routine and maintenance, and that's when they slowly, often imperceptibly, they start to actually decline. That's when a business fails. Often businesses fail for other reasons, but that's one of the key reasons. Alternatively, they innovate themselves over the wall and onto great new things. So your business needs to improve and grow, but it can only do that if you stimulate yourself through adding innovation and creation of new things. Make it part of your daily work. It's no good doing this whole, oh, I'm going to have an admin today to catch up today, or I'm going to have an admin week because then I've caught everything up. You're going to really not enjoy it at all. Part of the day on admin, then a small part, and then that's done. Now let's move on to the fun stuff. Okay, so the fun stuff is innovation, so get doing that as much as you can, but every single day you have to do it. It really works. I really suggest you try it out. Okay, those of you joining me now, thanks so much for doing so. Adam, that was a great question. If you ask questions on this live stream, and those of you who have asked questions prior to it, you are eligible for the giveaway. I'm giving away 5 lifetime access memberships to the 8-Step Startup course. The price is, the price is normally I think it's like $57 or something like that. But the point is, you have 73 lessons built with advice from the likes of professors, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and best-selling authors is all there for you for free. So I'll pick it based on people who have asked questions. If you ask questions, you might be one of the 5. Again, I'll release them at the end of this session. Let's do another question. But if you have a question, stick it in the comments now. Literally anything, because it means then you qualify. So Danny Battershill, thanks so much for your question. He says, legally, what are some things I should keep an eye out for and make sure are created effectively, such as contracts, paying staff, and booking new clients, etc. So Danny Battershill, I know, is building a new business. He's just starting out. He was in touch with me from over in New Zealand, if I'm right. Very exciting thing you're doing, Earthstone Arts, I think it's called. And look, just for the record, so I'm not a lawyer. My wife is, but I'm not a lawyer, and the important thing you understand is that it's wise to seek real legal advice when you're building a business, okay? So for instance, there are different types of businesses. Here in the UK, you could have a limited business, you could be a sole proprietor, as in working for yourself and that's it, self-employed. But also, you could run a PLC ultimately as well. There's lots of different types of businesses. You need to select the right one. So someone who's legally minded, ideally accountant, is a good place to start there. What I would say is, if you're engaging with customers, it is wise to have terms. I think also you need to bear in mind that the most important thing to start with is, if you're working with anyone else, so as in your team or your group, don't ever work with people, even close friends and family, without having some form of terms. It might feel a bit weird. I've done it before as well, where I've had a friend and we're like, oh, let's just work together. And I was like, do you know what? Let's still do terms anyway, because if anything goes wrong or anything gets sticky, we've got that to fall back on. Of course, you hope it won't, and it probably wouldn't, but make sure you do that. I know someone, in fact, as a client of mine, who came to me because he was working with a close friend, and they were building this app together, and sadly the relationship fell apart because they couldn't agree on something on the app. And then of course there was a lot of he said this and I said that, and it's like, well, there's no legal basis for any of this. So make sure you have an agreement based on how you're dividing up the company, based on things like what people are supposed to be doing. Obviously there are there's gentleman agreements like put your back into it and work as hard as you can, but the reality is you need to have some kind of terms. I always think it's wise to have some terms of engagement with people who are buying your product, such as, for instance, something to cover you for refunds or termination of contract and things like that. Even if you're just in an advisory capacity, and I am indeed, I think for, what's it at the moment, there's five businesses that I'm kind of on their board, they've invited me into, and all of those I have terms, because I could just rock up and give them advice and I might never have anything come back from it. But sometimes something might happen, and even if it's not your fault, you don't want to get caught up in liability if other people make mistakes, and make sure you cover that as well. And of course the other thing, things like your website, just make sure there are terms of engagement, terms and policy there is wise to do as well. But my strong advice is, yes, look at that. Bottom line is, in people you're working with, people who use your services, and check your website as well. Make sure terms of use is covered there. This stuff is templated to hell and back. There's so much of it out there. You can find this stuff for free, but I would always check in with someone legal. That's my strong advice. Don't say, oh, but Richard said. I'm not legal, so make sure you get someone who is to cover that kind of thing. Okay, so I hope that helps. Daniel, that's a great question. Thank you very much. Sorry, Danny, even. So there's a question here from Daniel Nunez. Thanks so much for sending one in. How do you use pain points without being a psychological bully? It's a really good way of phrasing the question. Pain points, just in terms of questions in sales, are, if you can understand pain points, it's a case of looking at the biases in the brain. So people will buy if they think they're going to get pleasure from something, if they think it's going to make them feel good. But they are more likely to buy if they think they can avoid pain. So, you know, my point is, if something's going to help you then to feel better about yourself, you know, because it gives you more of good stuff, you'll possibly want to buy that. You have a bias towards that, but you're more likely to buy something that helps you avoid something you really don't want, some real pain or something like that. So with that in mind, pain points, as in the points where there is pain or challenges for a prospect, are valuable for salespeople to sensitively use as leverage to get a sale. And you're absolutely right, Daniel. Some people overdo it and they become a psychological bully, because there's this thing called asking implication. And what that means is when you understand what someone's pain points are, you start getting them to describe what the implication would be of not dealing with their pain points. You can overdo it at this point. This is where you can become a psychological bully. When you say to someone, so what's it going to feel like if you don't deal with that in the next 12 months or something? And they start going, oh man, I'm going to feel really rubbish about it, actually. The thing you want to understand is that you can help people buy, but ultimately they will buy when they're good and ready, okay? So what you've got to do as much as possible is position them to feel like now's the right time. Sure, use pain points, bring them up, make them relevant to your sale, but if someone is pushing back, then pushing on them on their pain points, turning the knife as it's known, to make them feel even worse and therefore emotionally like they should be buying, is actually a little bit out of order. I don't know whether or not you're getting ethical here, because if you're trying to help someone, then arguably you could say that it's worth doing. But what it really comes down to, Daniel, is personality typing. What I would say is, if you have someone who is maybe a logical or practical mindset, I would say pressing on the emotional pain points tends to be ineffective. And I've found in the past, I've seen people who have really tried to leverage pain and challenges with a prospect to get someone to buy when they're clearly a personality typing that's more logical. They just find that irritating, and that's the point where they're like, look, you're just trying to wire me up there, and they can see straight through it. On the flip side, if you've got someone who's more of an emotional personality typing, then that kind of person will respond more to it. But it's a case, I mean, I'm not going to advocate anything that's unethical or that makes someone feel bad. I think it's what you need to do is you need to have the person you're selling to say out loud, yeah, that pain point would actually help me, or rather that pain point being solved would actually help me. You forcing it down their throat is actually unnecessary. You need to get them to say it out loud. Then that, I think, would mean you're not being so much of a psychological bully. If you're in agreement that there's a pain point, focus more on the solution instead. So hopefully that helps a bit, Daniel. Good question there. Those of you just joining in, thank you very much. I'm really appreciative that you are, and we're going to be announcing at the end of this stream, if you stay to the end, the 5 people that are going to be winning free lifetime access to all 73 8-Step Startup lessons. So you'll get access for a lifetime, as I say. So that's you're only eligible if you ask a question. So some people have asked questions already. I've got them off here, or you're asking questions on the stream. That's no problem at all. And I'll just pick them because, you know, I don't know who I'm going to pick, but I'll pick them based on if I think the question's good. Jamal, let me scroll up to your question. Thank you for joining, first of all. Jamal Abdullah has asked, Richard, when or how do you realise how do you realise whether another ask is going to break rapport, and what are some signs of it? What do you when you see that? What do you do when you see when you see that happening? I presume you're asking. Do you try building rapport? Gosh, it's a long question. Do you try building rapport back and don't go for the close on the spot on a follow up? Okay, let's just look at this last bit first, guys. Pay attention if you're focusing on sales. This is important. This last bit. Do you try building rapport back up and don't go for the close on the spot, but on a follow up? As much as is possible, don't go for a follow-up, okay? You should try your best to close someone on that call, on the first call. I get it. If we're talking about a merger of businesses and lawyers need to get involved and there's loads of paperwork, sure, you're not going to do it on a cold call, all in one call. But in the main products you're selling, you want to try and do it on the one call. Now, It is not pressure closing people on the first call if they are sold. I'll say it again. It is not pressure if they are sold. It is pressure if they're not sold. So it could be the 500th phone call and I could still feel you're pressuring me if I'm not sold. Conversely, I could be on the first phone call and be happy to buy within 3 minutes if I am sold. Pressure only arises, or someone says you're pressuring me, that's only because they are not sold on the value. It's as simple as that. So what you need to bear in mind is if someone's not feeling it, then pressuring them when they're not feeling it means you're actually doing the wrong thing. You need to focus on building value instead. What you need to say, what we're basically asking here is, how do you know when asking one more time for a deal is going to kill yourself? Well, the thing is, you need to test. The best way to test ahead of asking for the deal is to make sure that there's dialogue back and forth. So what happens at the start of a phone call is, in terms of the people speaking, you're speaking loads, the prospect's not speaking much at all. So you have small, closed, single word answer questions to open them up, low intensity brain power questions to get them talking. By the end of the call, they are speaking a lot more. You're not speaking too much, you're just feeding it, and they're like, yeah, I feel this could help, you're having some kind of dialogue or conversation at that point when you're going to be asking for a sale. Now the key here is to take note of how much this person's really speaking and engaging. If they're not engaged that much and you're about to ask someone if they want to go ahead and buy something, you need to be really careful, okay? Because what you're about to do is ask someone if he wants to commit to buying your product when they're probably not feeling that great or engaged about you. So test first. The way to test is ask some questions, some leading questions to see how they're feeling. Ask them more open questions, something that requires them to elaborate a bit. And if that person doesn't give you much more than one word answer, then the rapport's possibly not there quite as much as it can be. So what I need you to then think about is, okay, so now's the time's not right. It's a mistake. Listen, I've done sales non-stop for 15 years. I've made hundreds of thousands of phone calls, and it's clear that when someone is not feeling sold, for you to push someone and say, come on, let's buy it, is a mistake, because what it shows is that you're not tuned into the conversation. And all that's going to happen in that person's subconscious is they're going to be thinking, what is this guy? What planet's this guy on? I mean, does he not get yet that I'm clearly not that interested? You've got to build to it. Earn the right is what I always say. Earn the right to ask for the deal. So you'll know when another ask isn't going to work, is going to break the rapport even more, because they're giving you smaller answers to questions and they're not talking that much. Ask them more questions, build some more value. Basically, if ever you're losing them, you need to get more conversation going. So as their interest goes down, so should the intensity or level of engagement of your questions. So ask very little or small questions. Then you can build back up again, if that makes sense. That's essential, because that gets them talking, and that gives you the platform to then give value. The more value you give, the more emotional value in that you get on with them, you have a great conversation, you connect, you click, you have that kind of vibe, and practical value in terms of the business level. They feel like you've got a great product. You keep adding new components on. I mean, if you're losing them, throw new things in, talk about new benefits. That's going to make them feel more pumped. Then you'll just know, because they're giving you some cues, that this is quite a good time to actually ask for the deal. You've got to earn the right, though. Hopefully that helps you a little bit, Jamal. If you want some more detail, because it is case by case to a degree, PM me and I'm happy to answer that for you that way. So yeah, great question, well done. Let's go down. Carolina, hello, thank you for joining. Daniel, very much hello. Daniel has just said, I've just realized the tactics being used against me. Well, hopefully I'm uncovering some things about your pain points being used against you. It's good. The thing is, it's good to know how to sell, but it's also good to know how to buy as well. It gives you a more rounded understanding of what's going on. And there are lots of techniques people use, a lot of courses that people use and go on to actually understand how to buy effectively and how to engage and work with salespeople. So for instance, a really good technique, you should look out for it, is if you're trying to sell to someone who really knows how to buy, they'll use this thing called lowering aspirations, which is a technique to make you feel bad and rubbish about your product so that you're more inclined to give a a better a price for them or something like that. And I actually used this because I teach it. So I used this about a year and a bit ago when I bought a car for my wife, and it was perfect. Other than the colour, which we sorted in the end. And Jamal, thanks for that. The colour was wrong, but otherwise the car was perfect. If I'd been skipping around the showroom going, this car's amazing, I love this, I can't wait, I've got to buy this thing. It is exactly what we wanted, it's all we ever wanted. What I'm doing is I'm saying to that salesperson, I desperately need this thing. And when the interest is that high, he's going to feel so confident, and giving confidence to the salesperson means they're unlikely to discount or throw in any extras because they know they've got the sale right there. They've just got to push a bit and they'll take it. Or if they do give a discount, they'll probably not give that much. So what I did was from the start, I went in, I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the car. It's fine. Brilliant. I've sorted it. This is it. I'm like, I don't even need to look any further. I'm really pleased because we can get on with our day. And I was in and out within an hour, basically. It was like, I said buying that car, I've often said buying that car was like buying a pair of trousers. I knew what I wanted, walked in, saw it, bought it. That was the end of it. And so the point here is that I walked in and I said to the guy, look, okay, I mean, yeah, I suppose it's okay, this car. And he was like, look at it, it's so new. And like the wheel, you got alloy wheels and blacked out windows. And it's got a turbo. And I was like, yeah, but look, there's that. I don't really know. I don't really like that bit. And I was picking out all holes in them. I wasn't really that impressed. You know, I was being really cold with this poor guy. And what it did was it meant that when it came to getting discounts and pushing him at the end to try and close him, he wasn't feeling wonderful about the transaction. You know, I was talking about other places they've gone where actually they'd have had better options and more of a spread of cars, and generally speaking making him feeling a bit rubbish about his world. And so what happened was that the discounts were larger. He was trying to throw everything at me to try and keep me interested. I almost I didn't threaten to leave, but I said, kind of body language was showing I was probably going to leave it at one point, and he really tried to pull me back in with more stuff. And as it happened, I then walked out with a far better deal than I would have got if I'd pumped him up, making him feel really good. So try it out. If you're going to go buy something, especially a high ticket product in the future, lower people's aspirations, seriously. And that's why you see this a lot of the time on websites when it's like, buy my course. And then someone goes and buys, you go onto the page to buy the course. Then if you click away from it, there's a pop-up going, okay, how about half price? And what you've done there is you've lowered the aspirations of the person who's built that website. And you've said, look, I won't buy this, and and of course they've thrown something at you. So there are ways in which people, you know, a lot of people learn how to buy as well, and you've got to be aware of this stuff. Tuning into it all is really powerful, and a really good book you should try out. I cannot think where it is on one of the shelves somewhere. It's called Why People Don't Buy Things. I found that quite useful. I bought it many years ago. I can't think of the author, but you should check it out if you haven't read it. It's a very good one because it looks at the flip side and why people don't buy things. Let's move on to questions. If you have any more, pop them in here. But otherwise, let's go on to Daniel Felstad. Okay, so thank you very much, Daniel, for sending this one. This is a good question. Richard, hiring your first employee. What's important to make this a success? Okay, I've hired so many people over the years, so many. And it's probably been, I think, over 12 years that I've, from when I started hiring people. And it's so true, this idea of hire slowly and fire fast. It's so important. Take your time over hiring. Seriously, I learned the hard way because my first hires, it was like, do you have a heartbeat? Do you have? Good. Okay. And it was on telly, it was a sales, job. So it was essentially like, if you have a heartbeat, then what size headset do you need? That was the interview, and that was it. And I was like, I'll get in, and it's fine. And what I was doing, I was just getting bums on seats. And if someone could dial a number and put me through to a managing director, I just took over the call and closed it myself, which is ridiculous. I was like, totally not scalable approach. But they basically turned into connectors rather than salespeople for me. But I learned the hard way then, because then I had to change everyone's nappies because of course they weren't really very good fits for the job, and so they all had emotional problems and I couldn't really sort them all out properly, and I was just running around putting out fires. So it's far better to take your time. And robust recruitment is about not just putting someone through a strong interview, but ideally spend as much time as you can with them. So I mean, some of the best recruitment I've ever done is with a business I grew in London that became a multi-million-pound business in little over a year. And we would have a recruitment day, and we would get we'd get like 8 to 10 people in normally at any one time. We'd have we'd research some really good people, get them in, and we'd basically spend an entire excuse me, an entire day sweating them out. We'd start the day by lining them all up excuse me, and saying to them, right, we're going to hire 2 of you. There are 8 of you, if you hadn't noticed. And they'd all look around like, and it'd suddenly put in their A game. And they're like, right, I'm up against it now. And the competitive streak had come through. So I'd have that, and then we'd push them through very, very hard recruitment. Now, the reason why you got to really push them is because I promise you, I've done enough recruitment to know, I promise you there are superstars out there. So the 2 things you have to have when you are hiring, always, not just on like some of the hires or after a while when I've got a few people, always, you need to take your time when you hire them, and you need to hire superstars, only superstars, okay? I promise you, if someone is, the way to look at it is this: if someone is in a hell yes they need to be hired, then they are a no. It must be like that. And the reason why is because if you interview 30 average people, it will, like I mentioned a moment ago, it will lower your aspirations, and you'll start thinking maybe they're not that great out there. But then you get someone who walks through the door who's amazing, it makes you think, okay, if someone out there is that good, I need that to be where the bar is. I need to raise the bar up, and anyone else just isn't up to scratch. And it's interesting this, because you end up with, you know, you can hire, say, 3 people, then you hire the 4th one and they're amazing, and you're like, what am I doing with these guys instead? If you can find great people, then it means there are other great people out there, okay? You've just got to keep looking, and it's better to hold off and find great people than not. So I get asked at least once or twice a week from people, what do you think about this guy I'm trying to hire at the moment? You know, he's really great at this and this and this and this and this, but he's going to be I've had one guy, one a while back actually, he was like, he's amazing at the technical stuff I need, but he's a nightmare to manage. It's a no then, simple as that. You know, someone who's a great salesperson, if you desperately need a sales team, an amazing salesperson, but that person is going to be poisonous to the rest of the sales team, bin them off. It's not going to work, sorry. Someone needs to fall in step with the culture first, and obviously then you need to, you know, they need to obviously be decent as well, but they can't be someone who's going to be a nightmare and piss everyone off just because they maybe can do certain things right. So hire slowly, take your time, spend as much time with them as possible. That's why a probation period of sorts is a good idea. Even if you're going to work in partnership with a best friend, set up a trial period, because you're kind of doing recruitment there as well, really. It's recruiting with your partner just to see really if there's a good gel, if you kind of get on and mesh really well. And it might be after a month you're like, damn, this guy does not pull his weight, it's not right to work together. So you can invoke some kind of termination there. But it's important to take your time over it. I mean, back to that case, I would spend an entire day, we would stress them out, push them to do stuff they pretty much couldn't pass, and you know, you'd put them in a meeting and say, right, handle this meeting, we'd role play something, then you'd yank them out halfway through, right, now you've got 15 minutes, I want you to do a presentation to us directors, and they're like, oh, okay, I've got 15 minutes, I've got the internet and the subject, I'm going to go present. Most people crash and burn. And it's ugly and quite awkward at times. But then you get one guy who just does it and you're like, he's the man. That's the thing. And what you need is superstars. Because I promise you, when you get this right, and we did. We were building a recruitment business, so it obviously helped to be recruiting well. When we got this right, it meant you'd walk into the office and you think you'd be early. It'd be like 6 in the morning one day because you just had loads on. You'd walk in and it's like, they're all here already, and you never had to say things like, come on guys, let's pick it up, come on, let's have a good day, let's motivate you, let's get on the phone. Never. Because they were already on the phone, they were already saying, they were already doing their things, and you had initiative as well. Because one thing that superstars bring is lateral thinking and ability to create rather than following and doing only what you say. And I hate that when you've only got people, and it's fine to a degree, but what you don't want is people who are only doing what you say. You want people to come up to you and say, as I did once, I had one guy say to me, you know that spreadsheet you produced that's going to help us formulate how much money we make this month? I've just tweaked it a bit, I've made it better. Can you see what I've done? I'm like, Brilliant. Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. And it's just innovating on his own time. Another thing is when you have superstars, they're bought into your culture and they know that, you know, what ambitious, driven people look like. You end up with people then calling you or sending you a message and it's like 10 o'clock at night and they're like, I'm just trying to close this guy off and, you know, what do you think I should do about this? And they never want to stop. They run through walls is what we used to say, for your cause. And that's fantastic. They are out there. You've just got to take your time. So never hire the first guy. If the first guy is amazing, go test. If they're that amazing, right, let's see if he beats other people. But I've only got one person, so go find other people. You should be interviewing at least 3 or 4 or 5 people, at least, even if you think someone's amazing. And just think, I'm never going to be that lucky that the first person I hire is amazing. Or if I see 5 people, I can hire 3 of them. Really, you that lucky? You need to see plenty of them. Hire slow and hire superstars only. Okay, that makes life a lot easier and they will level you up. Just to finish on this point, those of you who are managing, who like the idea, and I've seen this everywhere, online as well, as, you know, with business people who show what their business is like. People out there, a lot of the time, they hire people who aren't as good as they are. It's ridiculous. And what it is they want to feel like the big boss man. So if you hire an assistant who's like a yes sir, whatever you want sir kind of person, rather than someone who's driven, ambitious, who's going to really take you places, even as an assistant, someone who's got initiative, who's going to move you forward, if you don't hire someone like that, you won't level up. And what I see all the time is, I see it when I go into companies to consult with them, you have this manager who has this sea of people around him of average, and they're pulling him down. And if you get amazing people around you, they will carry you. And what it is that they fear someone doing better than them and taking them further. It's stupidity. Because what you're doing is you're putting your ego ahead of the success of your business, which is completely misunderstanding how to prioritize. This is business, right? So you put good people in. If you can find good people, it scales you up. A good example, if you read, what's the book? It's up here about Google. It's a book specifically on Google, how Google works. I can't remember where it is. It's on one of the shelves somewhere. So how Google works is a really good book to read about this, because the recruitment process, it was a case of we can't hire someone unless they have a certain level. So they have to always be better, is what they were trying. I think it was something along the lines of they have to be better than us at what we're hiring them to do. Because if they are not as good as us, well then we're trying to be okay with someone not delivering as high a level of quality service, for instance. And you know, they would only hire people who are like PhDs or from MIT or whatever it might be, but they would also make sure that these people were better than them. And I think Sergey Brin, if I'm right, was the guy who would still interview people even, you know, when there was a few thousand employees in there, and get these things signed off, make sure they're absolutely amazing. In a nutshell, when it comes to recruitment, this is the thing. It's the same way I invest as well. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Same with investing. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I've had this in the past, people who maybe are clients who I work with or get into my kind of into orbit around me, and they're like, oh, you know, I'd love to have you invest in my company. Great. So show me great reasons why. I'll invest in any company, but only if it's a hell yes. Why the hell could I not do this? If not, it's a no. That means it's risky gambling. I just don't want to do that. Okay, no one else should want to either. So same as recruitment. Only if it's like, how could I cannot pass this guy up, okay? But if it's the only interview you've done, you need to go test, because it might be that you think this person's amazing, but actually he's actually pretty average compared with 3 other people you could bring in instead. So have a look at that. Big answer, but big question. Okay, it's really good. I'm going to announce in a few questions' time the winners of the 5 free lifetime access to 8-Step Startup course. So if you ask a question, you are eligible then. Okay, so ask a question now, you might get in the mix. It's just if I like the question, I'll probably say it's you. So stick in a question if you want. Thank you very much for everyone following. Salvatore, thank you very much for joining. And your Facebook Live yesterday in the Entrepreneur Business Group was fantastic. If you're not in the Entrepreneur Business Group, my group on Facebook, get in there now. Okay, there's so much value every day. For 3 weeks, what we're doing is every day someone in the group is adding some value of their own. Salvatore yesterday did a great session for 15 minutes on Facebook to the group. There's about 1,900 members I think we've got now, and we've got about a week's left. So this week we've got, today we've got Anthony Oakley, who's going to be speaking in a little bit, and we've got another 4 people, and I think someone quite special will be finishing the week on Friday. So check those out, they're really worth watching. All of them about giving value, except at the weekend we did a little kind of a promotion. My business partner Ben Allen and I, who is doing focus on traffic arbitrage, because he's going to be speaking at my conference in 4 weeks time in April. But check it out. If you're not in the group, join now, and we'll make sure you're approved in time so you can actually watch the Facebook Lives. They're really good fun. We'll definitely be doing this again because it's been excellent, you guys all contributing. Well, it's been over 2 weeks now of Facebook Live, so thanks very much for that. Let's do a couple more questions. So Ishmael Dumash, I hope I've said your name right. He said, Richard, how do you determine the hourly basis salary for a first admin employee? I don't know how many hours they'll be paid, as I mostly do everything myself. Okay, there are 2 ways of doing this. The first way, if you're hiring someone for admin, is to look, and I suggest this actually, is to look at a VA, a virtual assistant. So if you check out, actually there's a really good book for this. If you read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, you'll see that he explains how he made use of, to outsource everything, made use of virtual assistants. And actually the likes of Brickwork India or Your Man in India are really good examples of places you can go. Ask people in your ecosystem for referrals as well. Get a VA. Have a look at that, because with a VA, you don't have to feel as responsible for that person as you might an employee. It's more a case of, you have that touch point. You can say, I need this done. It's 3 hours work. Here's specifically the actions you need to take. Can you have it done by this day, please? Here's the money for it. And it's very simple transactional approach. And usually the companies I mentioned are actually really good at doing it. Alternatively, if you are going to hire someone on a kind of 0 hours contract, I presume, and you're going to set what hours week by week, then the way you need to look at this is, what do you want them to do? If you're going to have someone do really, really basic, boring, menial tasks like just data entry or something, well then maybe don't pay them so much. If there is, my advice for you guys, if you're going to hire someone, is if there is any amount of lateral thinking or initiative that you're going to want them to take, then you need to pay them a bit more handsomely. Because what I've found is that those people who are generously paid move from, oh, I've just got this job, to, wow, I really want to get involved in this cause now. And when I hired people for one of my more recent businesses about a year or so ago, those I hired, we talked about what the industry average was, and I doubled the industry average. Now it meant I took a bit more of a haircut, as it's known, so I took a bit less of the profit, because I was not just paying someone but paying them double what they might normally be paid. But it meant that money was not going to be a problem, and suddenly there's this feeling of, oh wow, I'm really into working with this guy, I really want to do something for him. Oh my god, especially when it's commission based, when it was for the sales roles as well, when it's commission based, they're like, but normally I would make this much and you're giving me this much money if I close a sale. And that's when I started getting people like sending me a message like on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day, and someone saying to me, I've just closed a sale, I'm so excited, I've just done another one. Or like New Year's Day, seriously, I had this team of guys, and as I said earlier, they're running through walls because I paid them more generously. So any initiative that you require from someone, any free thought or lateral thinking that's going to be required from that role, pay them generously, because they're going to want to run harder for you. Needless to say, in addition to paying them well, what you need, because it gives you good reputation as well, right? What you also need to do is make sure you inspire them too. This goes for any company. You need to inspire people with your mission. I don't care what your business does, you can still do it. If you're passionate enough about what it is you're doing, they're going to get whipped up into the same kind of, they'll feel that kind of inspiration as well. They'll be more inclined to want to push themselves and listen to what you're saying as well. And that's so essential. It's so essential, especially if you're working with them remotely. I've got some people who work with me who are all over the world, and so I can't be there with them, managing them. I don't treat people like children anyway. I think that grown-ups can probably look after themselves, but I need them to feel inspired about my cause. And so the combination of like, oh wow, I love working with Richard, if I can create that, combined with, wow, this guy, not only is he great to work with, he pays me loads of money as well if I do a good job. It's the perfect combination for them to go, I really want to do stuff here. I really want to push myself and work hard for you. That's how you should pay people, in my opinion. And look, if you're measly, or miserly is the word, with the pay you give people, you tend to not attract great talent as well. Pay is a big deal for many people, but I believe not quite as much as how inspiring it is or stimulating to work somewhere. I've taken pay cuts in the past when I've been headhunted to really exciting roles because they're more interesting. And look, I had a corporate job as a director in the city, and I quit it to come and build my own business. So I took one hell of a pay cut to start with, but that just goes to show it's when it's something more stimulating, you go do it. And of course, then you earn more money in the future anyway because you've done something that's stimulating. So bear that in mind. If you're trying to scrape or take money off so people aren't being paid that much, just maybe minimum wage on an hourly basis, then you better expect that what you're asking from them is absolutely menial. If you're asking for the extra mile from these people, they will never give it to you if you're only paying them that much, okay? If it is a cookie cutter kind of job where they don't have to think like press this button, write this thing, do that and nothing else, well then sure, you can get away with that. But that's down to you really. As I say, an administrative assistant or an admin employee may be someone who's literally just doing data entry and isn't required to use any brain cells all the day. If it's anything more than that, you need to start paying someone properly, because then they'll feel really inspired to do the extra. And it means, this is the thing, it's not just when it's going well, it means that when it's bad, when stuff's going wrong, then they're inspired to help you out. One of my clients has this perfectly, and she runs a creative and art business out of Baltimore. And she has an assistant, and she told me about this a while back. She has an assistant who clearly, she may not even realize it, clearly is bought in to the culture and the message and the mission, because when they lost an order, they had an order being shipped out and it was lost by FedEx or someone, they then had to spend 10 hours through the night building the order again to then drive it there themselves to make sure it got, I think it was for a wedding actually, on time. And her assistant was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And what happens is, if you don't pay people right and you don't inspire them, when you ask them to do something extra, they're like, hell no, what's in it for me? Do you see what I mean? And I've had this in the past when people aren't paid enough, they're not brought into the mission, and that they won't even spend 2 minutes in their lunchtime with you. They're like, no, going for lunch, I'm not interested about being here. So inspiration and better pay is important if you're asking for anything other than no brain cell activity. Okay, hope that helps. That's a really important question, Ishmael. Thanks so much, and I hope that answered for you. Let's have two more. So Yusef Wilson's asked, what are some of the considerations that an entrepreneur should engage when considering the products and services they'd like to offer to the market if they haven't chosen already? So what we're really asking here is what do you need to think about if you're trying to decide what products or services you're going to sell to the market? Wicked question, really important, because nowadays people make a living out of selling you on what they are doing. So for example, I'm a Forex trader, I'm going to sell you on being a Forex trader, buy my course or recruit you into my company to learn how to become a Forex trader, and you are paying to be part of my dream, and in return I teach you how to do this thing. Or with MLM or flipping real estate or affiliate marketing is the big one at the moment as well. I'm doing really well in affiliate marketing. I'm now going to charge you to do a course and come and do affiliate marketing as your new job, because I can hype it sufficiently, make you feel excited about what you're doing. That person selling that course might be doing tremendously well. You have to hopefully get into that as well. So where I'm going with this is you need to think about what product it is you're going to be selling based on some really important stuff. Bottom line is this: if you're not able to get behind the product and feel passionate about it, you really shouldn't be selling it. It's just not worth it, because when it comes down to it, if it's all going well, you'll sell anything. But when you've got a late night ahead, when you've got loads of shit that has to be done, I mean, seriously, it's been like, I think it was the night before last, it was like 2 in the morning, and I still had to do certain things, and it was like, this is stuff I normally wouldn't want to do. But then you take a moment, you're like, but why am I here? It's because of these great things I get to do, and I was happy to crack on and do it. When you need to take extra from yourself in the middle of the night when you're really tired or whatever it is, you'll be happy to do it. I've said this so many times, you'll be happy to do it if it's something you're passionate about. And I personally, because all of these live streams are my opinions, by the way, I personally believe you can't be as passionate about someone else's product as you can about your own. Honestly, I really feel this. So if you're thinking about what product it is I should be selling, and you're on the fence like, oh, I'm being, deep down I know I'm being sold on the hype a bit about selling some scheme or something that someone else does, or maybe going on, it feels like it's more resistance, a lot more work to build my own product. Seriously, it's more fulfilling. Go build your own product, because otherwise, what are you going to, really, 10 years from now, you're going to be selling out someone else's product still? Yeah, you might make it, but really, building your own product and selling that is so thrilling, because it's so much more multifaceted. If you're just keen on the money, well, go do that for a bit, but you might get a bit bored of it after a while. You need to focus on doing something that's fun and stimulating, so that passion comes through. So when you need it, you can really step up to the plate, because you have to. The other thing I would say is 2 other things. Firstly, make sure you can scale this product. If you're choosing a product, can I scale it up? Is it something that I can take and make more of, or be more abundant with? Is it the kind of thing where I can sell it through a partner, so someone where I can get a team of salespeople and they can sell it? Or is it that I have to always be there? Because if I have to always be there, so for instance, if you are a motivational speaker and you are going to go and speak around, do different talks everywhere, that's great, but how would you scale that? Other than asking for more money or doing more talks, it's quite difficult to do, because people are buying you. They're not really buying, they are buying the message, but they're not going to buy someone else so much, although some people have managed to do this. But the other thing as part of scaling is your time. So as much as is possible, you want products that can be duplicated and bought automatically, and essentially over time, less and less of your time is involved in producing or delivering the product or service, and more automated becomes the process by which people buy it. A really good example of this 8-Step Startup course. To begin with, I was building the course, took a heck of a lot of time, but then it moved to a stage where the ads are automated, the funnel, the sales landing page is automated, the process of buying is automated, and then of course the person who has bought it, who receives an automatically generated login email, who then is able to access the course and go through it all, that's automated as well. And so people talk about like the 4-hour work week. The 8-Step Startup course is like a no-hour work week. It's just, it kind of runs itself, because there's a team of people who look after the marketing for it as well. And so essentially that's that done now, you see. And so that's the ideal kind of product, is one where you ultimately are able to step away and it runs itself. Of course I check in, of course I have a look at what the sales figures are like each week, what my budget's like with ads and things like that, but ultimately that very much runs itself. There are other things where the higher ticket product, where I have to be there every day, for instance, with the people I have as clients. If you're building a business and you are a client of mine, then every single day for often 3 months, I will be in touch with you every day either by email or by Skype call. And that takes a lot of my time. So of course I have to ask for a lot more money, and I can't scale that as much. So think about it. What's going to take your time? The consideration even to do things like these Q&As on a Monday and on a Thursday every week. I could do more, but I wanted to be consistent every week. And so I didn't want to, if you overcommit to things, then suddenly you're locked in, you can't move, because you have to be always doing that Q&A, for instance. So I do it Monday and Thursday, because those are days where I'm fine with having what I call a time island. It's a little island in the sea of time. It's that island that it's immovable, it's compulsory. They sit there and they are things that happen every Monday at 1 and every Thursday at 1. Do you see what I mean? So you need to think about that thing. So make sure it's your own product, make sure you're passionate about it, make sure that it doesn't take take all of your time, because you need that space, as I said at the top of the session, to then innovate, and make sure, of course, that it's something that can be scaled. Otherwise you'll only get so far, because you'll have to constantly be looking after staff or customers or admin or whatever, and you won't be able to grow any further. So make sure it's something that can be scalable. Hopefully that helps. It's a really good question though. Thanks very much, Youssef. Let's do one more question, then I'll announce the winners of the 8-Step Startup course. 5 of you, lifetime access to 73 lessons. If anyone else wants to ask a question now, it makes you eligible for it as well. But otherwise, let's do one more. So Bro Sunday, thank you very much for your question. What's the best method to use in approaching people or potential customers so to create lifelong relationships? Well, this is it. This is ultimately, ideally, what your sales is going to be like all the time. A lifelong relationship has to start somewhere. It has to start with engagement, and that engagement should be on a good level. So what you need to try and do is work your way back. Imagine working. Thank you, Yusuf. I'm glad I asked you a question. Work your way back from your mind, from what good should look like. Okay. Imagine you're connecting with each the person every week. Imagine if you would launch a new product, they buy from you. Imagine if you put out content, memes, videos, whatever, they buy into it and they like it and stuff like that. If that's the world you want with that person, you need to work your way back from that. What it means is there's an understanding that you're a good guy, you look after them, you have integrity, you do a good job with them, things like that, and you don't do anything dodgy. So the answer here is to give more than you take. Go read Professor Adam Grant from Wharton University. Great book called Give and Take. And the other one is called, can't remember. But Give and Take's the one you should read. And he helped me with the 8-Step Startup course, incidentally. And he's got a really good point that those people who really win long term are the ones who give a lot more than they take. If you are giving value to people, you are helping them out. In the main, you're enriching their lives more than they are yours outwardly. Then what it means is they will feel that slight, even emotional debt towards you. They will feel good about being in orbit, as I say, around you. And as a result, they won't stay in orbit around you. Consistency is king, as I often say. A lot of things are king, aren't they? But consistency is one of the kings out there. And what that means is that you need to make sure every day you show up and give value. So, for instance, lately I've had some really hard stuff going on in the background, and it doesn't mean that I don't still put out value, engage with people, and innovate and create new things for people to be interested in. Because that's important. A lot of people, weirdly, over time, a lot of people start, and it's really flattering actually, really start not relying on you, but getting used to coming to you as a source of value. Maybe it's by proxy, because I'm sharing other people's great value, or some of my own. But if people really like that, you need to show up and keep giving that to them. And that's how the long-term relationship comes about. But do good things for them. Go over and above as well. Shout out, praise them, talk about great things that they have done, and that makes them feel good as well. But all this stuff, all it's doing is emotionally, you're adding more value. You're making them feel better than they're making you feel, which sounds a bit weird and it sounds a bit kind of transactional, but what you're actually doing is you're helping them out as much as possible so they feel like they almost owe you something. That's where your lifelong relationships come from. But having integrity, being honest, being authentic and not dodgy, not focusing on selling at them all the time, it's the way to have long-term relationships with people. And what I'm really proud of is the people who tend to be in my ecosystem. They're the same people that show up every week. I know people who've got many, many more followers, for instance, and it's a different one every day. Some of them, they've managed to get into the ecosystem, and then they get sold out, and it doesn't really give them much value, and then they kind of disappear, then it's the next person. And if you're fine with that, no problem. But what I like is that even for over a year or two, some people have been following me. They show up every week for Q&As. They show up to ask questions, to buy my products, and to ask and things like that. And it's really amazing to see. And that's because there's that consistency in that value giving. And ultimately, that is a stimulating thing. So if you have those long-term relationships, on occasion, it's punctuated by a sell, but that's no negative thing. what it is, it's a case of, right, I'm helping you as I go, I'm giving you value and helping in your general world and things that are of interest and stimulating to you. And now I've got something that can help, that I've put together that has a price point, and they're going to be happy to buy it because they're feeling, do you know what, that's really good. There's a big chunk of juiciness there in that product you're selling, and it's just more of the same. I'm happy to buy it, and then you carry on as you were. So it's not like it's a negative thing when you do that right hook, as Gary Vaynerchuk said, and move from giving value to asking for something, as in to buy. In fact, it can be embellishment on what you're already doing. So hopefully that helps. Let's pick 5 winners. Okay, should we do that? So 5 people who have won the 8-Step Startup lifetime access. I think first one is going to be Danny Battershill for that question about legal work at the start. Second one will be Ishmael Dumas, the hourly basis salary. Third one, Daniel Kvelstad, for sure. That was a really good question about hiring your first employee. And I think there were some questions earlier. What was that other one? That was one I really liked. Fourth one will be Daniel Battershill, Daniel Kvelstad, everyone's called Daniel, Danny Nunes, Ishmael Dumas, and what was the other one? There was another good question I liked up here, I'm scrolling through all your questions. And the one about realising if there's another ask to break rapport, Jamal Abdullah. So you 5, 3 Dannys, Ishmael and Jamal, you're going to get lifetime access to 8-Step Startup. I'll contact you all individually and I'll send that over to you as a link. Well done, thanks very much for that. In terms of the Entrepreneur Business Group, make sure you're in it. There's going to be a Facebook Live today from Anthony Ogley. He's going to give some serious pump and motivation, so make sure you're in there. Jamal, hopefully that is okay for you to take. So thanks so much. I will be back in touch with you on Thursday live, but I'll probably be doing some more throughout the week anyway. There's a lot going on. I'm building some content at the moment on a new course that some of you guys have been, most of you guys seem to be asking about, and I'll reveal now the course is going to be on building a building an online course. So the course is on building a course, but so many people are asking for how to do it and how to get traction with it, because of course it can be a stream of revenue that becomes automated and sticks. So let's make sure we get that out there. It's going to be fairly soon in April. But yes, Jamal, you won. Congratulations. You're one of the 5. Your stream lagged. Thank you very much. Everyone who responds on this stuff, everyone who joins in week after week, everyone who writes these great questions in as well. I'm so thrilled. This is week 41. What are we, 11 weeks away from doing an entire year of this? So obviously I'm not going to stop after a year, I'm just keep going, but I'm really enjoying it. And thanks so much for joining in. Any questions you have, let me know. If you haven't yet done a strategy session with me, we can talk about your business. I'm doing them completely free at the moment. So you need to go to go.rmmentoring.com, so RM for Richard Moore, go.rmmentoring.com, and you can schedule an appointment with me, and we can have a free call to discuss your business situation and see if I can add some value there as well. But it's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much. Have a massive week, all of you. I really appreciate you listening in. Thanks so much for that, and well done to those 5 winners. Just one more time: Danny Battershill, Daniel Kvelstad, Daniel Nunes, Ishmael Dumas, and Jamal Abdullah. Thank you very much. Your questions won you free lifetime access to 8-Step Startup, and I'll catch up with you really soon. Have a great day. Thanks so much. Like this and share it if you enjoyed it, but I will catch up with you really soon. Bye-bye.